Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I will call the February 5th, 2025 Select Board meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. There are no changes to the agenda. I want to note that Dr. McNabb is online, so all votes tonight will be taken by roll call. And I'll turn it over to Greg for announcements.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair. In addition to these 5 announcements, there are 2 additional that I request to be able to announce. Thank you. The first is that the Select Board meeting is being audio and video recorded. The second is committee vacancies. This has been on for a while. Round 4 are the Council for Human Services, the Council on Aging, Cultural Council, Town of Nantucket Scholarship Committee, Zoning Board of Appeals alternate, and reminder that the deadline is this coming February 7th at noon, 12 o'clock p.m. The Master Plan Visioning Process Kickoff event. Please join Charles Marone, founder and president of Strong Towns, to launch the Nantucket Master Plan Visioning process on Thursday, February 13th at 5 o'clock p.m. at the Nantucket Inn. The plenary session and reception to follow. It's a free event open to all, but space is limited, so please RSVP by emailing Laurel at barrettplanningllc.com. That is also on the agenda and on the website, and you can see it displayed right there. Additionally, the master plan update, Help Shape Nantucket's Future. Host a kitchen conversation, which is a small group discussion you can facilitate from your own kitchen, your office, coffee shop, or anywhere you want. Share ideas with friends and neighbors about Nantucket's strengths and challenges to help update the master plan. To learn more, email Megan Trudell in the planning office at mtrudell@nantucket-ma.gov. This deadline has been extended to February 21st. An additional announcement, I'd like to call up the town's transportation planner to discuss the Pleasant Street one-way pilot period.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good to be here in person to give you this announcement. This is related to the Pleasant Street one-way pilot program that you approved this past October. As early as this Friday, February 7th, the Nantucket Department of Public Works anticipates reopening only the northbound lane of Pleasant Street between William Street and Atlantic Avenue, or Five Corners, to vehicle traffic. Signage and barricades will be placed in the southbound lane between these intersections to designate that section for pedestrians and bicyclists only as part of a one-way pilot recommended by the Nantucket Historical Commission, the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, the NPDC, and approved by you all, the Select Board. This pilot period will last 2 months, during which time access will be maintained to all driveways and intersecting roadways. Public outreach will include collecting public comment and survey responses through the town's Zen City website. Traffic counts, including vehicle, pedestrian, and bicycle counts, will be collected, analyzed, and presented to this board in early April. If the piloting is deemed successful with sufficient positive responses from those who walk or bike in the area, minimal disruption or minimal anticipated disruption to traffic flow, and general acceptance by the community, then staff will recommend the Select Board extend this piloting period and the public outreach effort to a date to be determined. And Madam Chair, this one-way pilot period will evaluate the community's acceptance of a traffic flow change that more safely accommodates pedestrian and bicyclists while also minimizing property impacts to abutting property owners. Community input during this piloting period will be greatly appreciated and will help community leaders, you all, decide the long-term strategy to accommodate safe and accessible travel for all users along this corridor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. The next announcement is from the town's Director of Public Health, Roque Miramontes, regarding the avian influenza.
Good afternoon. To date, avian influenza remains primarily an animal virus with the highest risk posed to birds, particularly wild waterfowl such as geese, ducks, gulls, shorebirds, and swans. Raptors and scavengers that consume infected birds are also highly susceptible, along with domestic poultry. While the current risk to public health is low, and there has been no human-to-human transmission of highly pathogenic avian influenza, or HPAI, anywhere in the United States, individuals should still avoid contact with sick or dead birds, and pet owners are advised to keep dogs leashed and cats indoors to prevent exposure. State agencies, including the Department of Public Health, the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources, and Mass Wildlife, urge the public to report sick or dead birds through an online reporting form and to follow proper precautions when handling animals. The Nantucket Health Department recently posted guidance recommended by the state on the town website. Additionally, Massachusetts has continued monitoring efforts, including a routine testing of dairy farms, which have not detected any infections in the state's cattle. Recent testing on Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard has been part of a broader avian influenza surveillance effort. While large die-offs of birds on Cape Cod are now generally considered suspect for HPAI, the existence of dead wild birds on Nantucket, particularly in the winter months, is not an unusual event. Earlier this week or last, researchers from Tufts University, in collaboration with Cascada Coatue Wildlife Refuge and others, collected approximately 100 dead birds for testing of HPAI. Of the first batch of 76 samples collected on site at the refuge, Warren's Landing, and Cathcart Beach, only 3 birds, a great black-backed gull, a herring gull, and a common eider, tested presumptively positive for H5N1 HPAI, with confirmation testing still pending. And there are approximately 20 additional specimens set to be tested. Samples were processed at the state laboratory using RNA extraction and PCR testing for influenza A and H5 HPAI. These tests are screening tests, as confirmatory testing needs to be coordinated with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So the preliminary results suggest it seems unlikely that HPAI is the main driver of what is being observed in seabirds on Nantucket. As monitoring continues, Mass Wildlife and other state partners remain engaged in ongoing situational assessments, including biweekly regional meetings on avian influenza trends. The health department will continue to emphasize prevention strategies, particularly for backyard poultry owners, pet owners, and those handling wildlife. Testing and surveillance efforts will occur in collaboration with the state and other partners, and further updates will be provided as confirmation testing progresses for recent samples collected from Nantucket and surrounding areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Rocky. Is the link for reporting birds, dead birds, available on the Board of Health website? Is that where people would find it?
It's actually went and available on the town website, the main website under announcements is where we've put it.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that for the public. So on the town's main website under announcements, if you see unusual bird deaths, you can report it as part of this ongoing effort. Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board on that? Okay, all right, great. Any other select board announcements or comments?
I have just one comment. One thing I hear constantly now is, how do we get our car inspected? I spent some time trying to figure out how to get my 3 vans, which I pushed into the winter months because that would be easier. And now it's, it seems very difficult. I know it's difficult for the business itself. And one of the thoughts I had, and since Mr. Burns is here and smiling, I was wondering, Mike, and you don't have to answer tonight because this is public comment. I'll keep it under 3 minutes and then you can get back to me. Is there a way we can write the state and ask, do they have, some states have mobile inspectors or anything like that? Does the state have anything like that that they could send here and help us to clear it, to clear that issue? So that's my comment for tonight. It would be great if we could, if the state was willing to give us some help somehow. There's no way it's worth building a building and setting up employees and everything to do this because the prices are so skewed here. But is there any way the state could, they're asking us to do this. And now the state does check you have to get, when you're being inspected, they are watching it on TV. And I've been told by people who do inspections, it's not on island, off island, that they will contact them and say, hey, inspector number 382 didn't look under the right side of the car, et cetera. So they're actually, I don't know if they're doing it through AI or they're just doing it randomly, but they are making sure that the inspection that takes 20 minutes takes 20 minutes, and that you're looking at the entire car, which means it's even harder. So anyway, that was my thought for tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely on our radar, and we're working on it. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. No updates on public comment questions from prior select board meetings, so I will now open public comment for items that are not on the agenda. I have 2 hands up online. I'm going to take Veronica Bonet online, and then I'll take you, Mary, after that.
Good evening. And thank you for having us once again and allowing us to ask questions. I did read your response to my questions from January 22nd, and I just wanted to re-ask the questions because while you did write a response, none of them were the answer to my questions. So the first question is, when will you make the communication between the select board and BSEE public? It seems to me that there's a lot of information not flowing to people on Nantucket. In particular, I'm wondering when the town was notified that Vineyard Wind had submitted a addendum revision to their construction and operating plan. That was actually submitted to BOEM on December 5th of 24, and then it was updated on December 16th of 2024. But until the record of decision was announced on January 17th, nobody on Nantucket had been informed about that, and I don't think it was posted on the BOEM website either. And in general, I think that you should either make the correspondence you're having with federal agencies public, whether word for word or a summary, or you should just acknowledge that you do not have a seat at the table. And whether you get the information from Vineyard Wind, or you get it from Bessie, or you get it from BOEM, or you get it from the state of Massachusetts, if you have a seat at the table, you'd be getting this information, and we wouldn't be having to, crawl through federal websites to find it. So either you have a seat at the table or you don't. And if you don't, I think you should answer that. The other question you did not answer was whether or not you are going to do something to assess the increased risk to, the billions of dollars of real estate the town owns through the land bank or through other organizations on the island. I think that you have a fiduciary responsibility to do that, especially in light of the meeting you have tomorrow, executive session, to review a proposed settlement from Vineyard Wind. If they have in fact proposed a settlement, I would just like to say that is extremely premature. They have 66 blades out there that they have no intention of taking down until they have new ones. The conditions in the construction and operating plan for having new blades are arduous. This is going to be a long haul, and we have a lot of risk out there in our ocean, and not a lot of information. So those are my comments, and I hope when you do respond that you answer the actual questions, because I think a lot of people want to know what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary?
Oh, can you just pause and get, because I gotta make her not talk first. Thank you.
Okay, and reset the timer. Okay. Go ahead, Mary.
Mary Chalk. Tomorrow night's meeting, an executive session. In my opinion, there should be no decisions made around a settlement agreement with Vineyard Wind and GE Vernova until the public's 500 questions are answered, the questions they submitted for the public comment between Bessie and the public hearing with Bessie. That was canceled twice now. Here are my questions. Firstly, over 600 dead whales and dolphins have been found stranded on beaches of southern New England in 2024, twice the annual average. NOAA tells us only 1/3 total dead animals are ever found, so it's a slaughter out there. My question is, what is our value as an island with a dead ocean? My other question, what are the results of the water quality tests after one blade collapse? Now we learn 66 blades are at high risk of collapse. What will be the damage to our water quality if one more collapses, 5 more, 10 more, 20 more, et cetera, et cetera? Number 3, what are the results from the assessment on our marine life after that one blade collapse? What will the damage be after 5 blades, after 10, after 20? Number 4, I'm still picking up fiberglass and blade pollution every day on the beach. So here are the pieces of the blade that, we're really familiar with. It's getting smaller and smaller. But this has been washing up over the last couple, this is a small bag, sample bag, over the last month or so, between like Cisco Beach and Smith Point. And it's this yellow styrofoam shards. And so it's continuously washing up. What's going on out there that we're getting this new pollution? What percentage of that blade, one blade, remains on the seabed? Are they required to pick it up? Is there a deadline? Is there any enforcement? Question number 5, how are they going to clean up the microplastics and this larger debris still in our water column? Is this going to be enforced with deadlines? Question number 6, are they going to be required to post a decommissioning fund? 7, is there a deadline for full removal of the 66 defective blades? And how is this enforced?
Okay, thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question for clarification? Mary, is the yellow new? Have you been getting yellow all along, or that's new?
No, it's not.
Yeah, can you send us a picture of that, or? Okay, yeah, that is different, yeah.
Yeah, it's not what we really classified with the,
Yeah.
Mary, we can't have a conversation.
No, I
guys,
understand that,
because
but I
the
was-
public can't hear it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, no, I understand. It's a good question.
For the public, I'm asking, is the yellow new? I had not seen yellow before, so I'm asking Mary to send a picture of that so we can put that to the WIN team and see what it is. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Okay. I'm going to take Robert Bates online and then, oh, I'm sorry, wait. Amy DeCibio's hand got,
Bumped up, I know.
I don't know how that
Down
happened.
or something.
All right. Why don't we do Amy DeCibio since that's the order? Robert, I'm not sure whether you took your hand down and put it back up, but I'm going to go with the order that the computer gives me.
Should I start?
Go ahead.
Hi, yes, this is Amy DeCibio. Thanks for letting me speak tonight. With respect to the blade break on July 13th, as we all know, there was a scheduled meeting that the community was supposed to have to answer the many questions that we have with Bessie, the Bureau of Safety and Environmental Enforcement, to get the answers that we've been asking for 7 months about the blade break. And in fact, we had so many questions that the meeting was initially postponed. But then the next message from the town was the meeting has been permanently postponed. So I guess my first question is, what does permanently postpone actually mean? The town's website also says that you will share updates if a new date is set. So is there a reason, it's just confusing, is there a reason why it doesn't say when a new date might be set? In addition to that, is the town actively seeking a new meeting date with Bessie? Over and over again, we have heard from you guys that the select board does not have the power to do all of the things that we all keep asking you to do with respect to Vineyard Wind and offshore wind and in general. But at the same time, we've also been told over and over by the select board and your lawyers at Cultural Heritage Partners that the good neighbor agreement that you signed on behalf of everyone who owns property on, lives on, and works on Nantucket, that the benefit of the good neighbor agreement is that it gives Nantucket a seat at the table. So next question is, I think the public would like to understand at which table does the select board actually have a seat? Because it doesn't appear that it has one at the table that matters. We can't even seem to get a meeting with Bessie. Lastly, President Trump's executive order opens the door for investigation and review of the existing wind energy leases. What is the town doing to insert itself into that process? The overwhelming majority of the community doesn't want these projects, so are you going to file a lawsuit to put Nantucket's complaints on record so that our island's best interests are considered? And lastly, just piggybacking on what Mary and Veronica said, the executive board agenda is talking about contemplating another settlement. And I would really hope that we've learned our lesson. A good neighbor agreement and another contract with the private developer seems to do nothing but keeps us out of the discussion, takes us out of the process, and kills our opportunity to have a seat at the table that matters. And that's pretty much all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Amy. Gentlemen.
George Ellis.
Can you just
We were recently informed that all 100% of the 66 blades that Vineyard Wind installed are defective. We were previously advised by Vineyard Wind that blade defects were in the low single digits. The press has reported that blade defects were covered up at the factory. I asked the town of Nantucket and others to press Vineyard Wind, Bessie, and Boehm to disclose the details of the exact timeline relating to the faulty blades. Now, because 60 or so of the 66 defective blades still remain 14 miles offshore, there is a high risk of another blade collapse with more pollution, nanoplastics, and debris in our waters and on our beaches. Taking down the flawed blades ASAP makes the most sense. Unfortunately, I read Vineyard Wind plans to uninstall and install blades one turbine at a time over many months while continuing other operations, which will slow the removal of the defective blades. Delay increases the risk of another catastrophic blade collapse this spring or this summer. Continuing other operations also prolongs the risk to dolphins and whales, which have been dying at unprecedented rates in the last year. So I asked the town of Nantucket, the select board, and others to strongly appeal to Vineyard Wind, Boehm, Bessie, Chris Wright, the Secretary of Energy, and Doug Burgum, the Secretary of the Interior, that all operations at Vineyard Wind, except removing all their faulty blades, should be stopped, pending a full review by all those agencies. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Bates online.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
All right. The reason I'm calling is a little off topic from what everyone else has been talking about. I have a question, and I've already broached this subject with Public Works. They weren't really able to give me a good answer. I'm now responsible for a property that has roughly 100 feet of sidewalk in the downtown area. And when we've had snow, it's our responsibility to make sure that the sidewalk is clear. Yet as I drive around town, I see sidewalks all up and down Main Street, all the side streets that aren't being cleared by the property owners. My question is, where is the liability for this with property owners being responsible for clearing town property of snow? Further, if something happens with this property and somebody slips on town property after someone has cleaned it, where does the liability lie? You get a refreeze, property owners aren't here for a large portion of the year, but nobody's clearing the sidewalks. I think this is something that needs to be readdressed. I think the town bylaw that requires property owners to remove snow needs to be amended or removed. It should be the town's responsibility to clear snow from their property, not a property owner who abuts it. I can't claim that property if I decide to sell my property. I shouldn't be responsible for maintaining it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other public comments? All right, seeing none, we will move on the agenda. We have some gift acceptances, which I am prepared tonight in advance. So we have gifts from,
We have to do the warrants and pending contracts.
oh my gosh. Okay,
I'll move approval of the warrants and pending contracts.
all four?
Yes.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
Okay, by roll call, Matt?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay, now I can move on to gift acceptances. The Natural Resources Department has received a gift valued at $6,600 from the Orensteins for larval equipment for the Brant Point Shellfish Hatchery. And the Human Services Department has received a gift of $250 from Visco Pumping for the Salt Marsh Senior Center. The recommended motion is to accept all gifts for their designated purposes with thanks to the donors. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. By roll call, Don?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Nat?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay, and thanks to the donors very much. Next up is Citizen Departmental Committee requests. Nantucket Moorings request for increase of rental mooring fees. Is someone from town going to lead?
So I'm going to introduce this.
Okay.
Nantucket Moorings currently holds a contract with the town to oversee or to run the moorings in the Nantucket Harbor. The last time that Nantucket Moorings requested a fee increase was in 2019, which was then approved by the board in 2020. Up till now, it's been a static pricing model, dependent on the size of the boat. And Nantucket Moorings is now asking for a dynamic pricing model, which would increase or decrease depending on the time of year or how busy it is or things of that nature. And the Nantucket Boat Basin does something similar. Tim Rainamo, from the owner of Nantucket Moorings, is here to review his request, and the harbor master, Sheila Lucy, is here if there's any specific questions.
Hi.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yep. Do you want to just run through the logic of your request for us?
So the request is pretty much what Erica just said, that in the busiest weeks of the summer when we are completely full, the price of the moorings would increase, very similar to, say, a rental car or a hotel or any other hospitality industry. And so the reservation system that we work with through DocWa has developed that software for us now, and they're offering it to all their customers, us being one of them. So we would like to take advantage of that, and it's really going to affect about 6 weeks of the summer when we are totally full and we are turning away a lot of potential customers. That would be where the prices would get raised a bit, just to take advantage of it.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I guess I have a couple. Yeah, in theory, I think it's a good thing. I guess my question might be more from the town side. Do we have a list of, you were supposed to provide a list of the moorings and how much each earned? Did we receive that this year? Yeah. Yeah, they're in compliance with that
Nantucket
part.
Moorings is in compliance with all the conditions of the contract.
All right, so they've done that. So are they all, what is the average like stay on them? Is it all different?
It's all over the place. We have a 2-night minimum for an advanced reservation. If you want to come in for a day or a night, that's a first come, first serve. Or if you call us first thing in the morning, we'll give you a reservation if it's available for a shorter period than 2 nights. Over 4th of July, we have a 3-night minimum.
Gotcha.
But it's all over the map. You know, the weekends, we do get a lot of short stuff, a lot of lunch boats, or even dinner. And then anything from months.
Yeah, do you have any that are long-term? Do you have any that are rented for the whole season, or?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
you do
certainly.
do some of that?
Yep.
The
So
other
this wouldn't, so this wouldn't apply to those because they're different.
It could apply to those during the busy weeks.
Okay, so
For
you would-
sure.
yeah.
And with this software, I haven't gone far enough with DocWa yet to put in where those raises are gonna come. I will have the ability. I can set it for a percentage, I can set it for dates, I can set it pretty much any level that we want. And we can have multiple levels if we want as well. But obviously, I need your approval before we start to do that.
Right.
So that's why we're here.
The other thought I had is it might make the less popular times of the year more interesting to people if there was a savings associated with it. Like a hotel, you come off season, it's cheaper. Yeah.
Yep. Everything I've talked with DocWa is obviously they want to see the revenue go up as much as any of us. But they did say that there is a possibility that you can discount moorings as well. You can see on the slide that Erica just had, our set pricing where we are at. And then I just proposed the numbers where we would have our base price would be the lower number. And then I wouldn't exceed the higher number that is there. So that would be the change of approval from what I've had in the previous, where it's a set price no matter what date and what size boat it is and what time length you have.
Okay, if there aren't, Tom?
I have another, yeah, do you have like the previous history for a number of years, so you can look at that history versus this and sort of see,
Yes.
you know, how it makes sense and how it works? Yeah.
Yes.
Are there principles they follow, like on demand management for parking, they try to charge a price so that, you know, one or two spaces out of every, 10 are opened at any one time? Are you doing that, or your principle's different?
As far as trying to keep moorings open on a daily
Well, that's,
basis.
look, so I understand, you want to keep them full.
Correct. Yes.
You want to keep them full, but in demand management for parking, they change the price so that there's always one, an opening on every street. So when people come, there's always somewhere for them to park. And so I'm wondering, so that's the principles for parking, so because you want convenience and you want turnover and convenience. Are there principles that they sort of ask you to follow?
Yes,
or-
when we manage the reservations, out of the 125 rentals on a daily basis, we do keep a couple empty.
Yeah.
And that's, we have breakdowns, you have people that, weather delays, whatnot. And obviously, there's some instances where we pretty much have to be able to accommodate a boat that, say, doesn't have a reservation or needs to extend for one reason or another. So yes, we do.
Yeah, so you have to
We
do
do
that.
manage something similar to what you're.
Yeah, so if someone's supposed to leave and they can't, you have to have somewhere to put them.
Exactly. And
Gotcha.
obviously, we still have to be able to take care of the incoming customers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with the idea of this, and I mean, I appreciate it. So it's, say, for the 0 to 25, $70 in June, and then $100 on August 1st, kind of thing.
It could possibly be, yes. That's what I need to work
Something
out.
like that, but these are the ranges you're going to.
Correct. That
keep it
range, I believe,
between.
is in the right-hand column that you're looking at.
Yep.
That would be the $70 would be our set price to start with, for sure. You want to make an advance reservation with me, I'm going to charge you your $70 per night. If we decide to go up during the weeks that are busy, then we could somewhere between 70 and 100. Typically, like I said, we got about 6 weeks of the summer that we're turning away a lot of potential customers because we're full.
Yeah. I think it makes sense.
Pleasure of the board?
I mean, I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second that.
Okay,
and We'll see how it goes.
all right, by roll call, Don?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, that's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
See how it goes?
Yeah, I
Okay.
appreciate it. You too.
Yeah. Okay, next up, Greg, you want to lead this one?
Yeah, sure. Thank you,
That's-
Madam Chair. The town manager asked that we put this agenda item on the agenda tonight to kind of keep into the public the amount of work that the town has been doing regarding PFAS PFAS assessments and investigation. As you know, since 2020, the town has committed quite a few resources into better understanding potential sources and mitigation of PFAS on the island. And that does not go unnoticed. This past week, several members of the town went to an annual conference called NUIA, the New England Water Environment Association in Boston. And not only was Nantucket presented in a couple of different sessions, but members of our own staff, including myself, presented a paper. And so we just wanted to give you a brief update on that. And you want to ask, why would I go? Because I know it's all over my head. But I helped co-author a paper with Chuck Larson, our manager of strategic projects, as well as CDM Smith, our consultant, who's been helping us on this journey with PFAS since 2020. And I won't go into too much detail. We have with us this evening Andrew Shapiro, who is our new environmental contaminant administrator, as well as Chuck Larson as manager of strategic projects, and of course David Gray, our sewer director, who were all up in Boston with me. So instead of me talking, I would like to introduce Andrew Shapiro, so he could give some takeaways on the sessions, and then have Chuck update on the presentation we gave. Andrew?
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. Well, nice to meet all of you. I'm Andrew Shapiro. I'm the new Environmental Contamination Administrator, and I was lucky enough to be able to attend the NUIA conference for the first half of last week. I didn't present at the conference because I'm new in this role, and the presentation was planned before that. But it was really interesting to see lots of different presentations and meet consultants and vendors and contractors. And I'll just talk a little bit about the sessions that I sat in on. So even though the conference is called the New England Water Environment Association Conference, it really focuses on wastewater, so a subset of water. And PFAS and emerging contaminants have really big implications for how we handle wastewater. They're affecting what utilities do with the wastewater itself and wastewater solids, as well as how utilities handle leachate from landfills. So I sat in on a number of sessions and learned about PFAS treatment technologies for those environmental media. I think Chuck is going to talk a little bit more about the treatment technologies, but it was really interesting to see. And I mean, one of my main takeaways was that treatment technologies are more and less effective for certain PFAS. So I think that's a really important thing for us to keep in mind as we move forward and potentially consider certain treatment technologies. I also learned about a number of informational hubs for biosolids and a number of articles about PFAS from the Water Research Foundation. One thing that was really interesting to me was a session on machine learning for PFAS source identification. And this was a wastewater conference, not a PFAS conference. So there were a number of other topics as well. There were times where there weren't any PFAS sessions going on. So I learned about wastewater surveillance. So tracking, for example, COVID in wastewater streams. So in sewers, basically. I learned a little bit about water reuse and odor control. And yeah, it was a great conference and really nice to meet lots of people. I'm going to pass it on to Chuck now.
Okay, thank you, Andrew, and good evening, everyone. So as Greg mentioned, last summer, Andy, Greg and I prepared an abstract for the NUIA conference, and we submitted it, and it was accepted. The presentation has the title, Building a Community-Specific PFAS Cycle to Inform Program Management and Communications on Nantucket. And the title describes it nicely. The objective of the presentation was to share the development of the Nantucket-specific PFAS cycle and how we used it to identify opportunities for PFAS source reduction and control. Specifically, we explained how the PFAS cycle was used in program management to identify projects for the wastewater treatment plant, landfill, and protecting the drinking water supply, and the PFAS cycle as a public communication tool to explain PFAS activities to the public. We also presented something new, not yet shared with our community, a PFAS cycle 2.0 diagram to provide a visual that's easier to use and understand, and also additional information. The presentation is available online, and this particular new PFAS cycle is slide number 9. So, we put that out there pretty much as kind of a working version, open for comments. We also shared information about the range and amount of communication activities the PFAS team has been providing to the community, and responding to emails and questions, having a dedicated PFAS email address, making numerous public presentations, including the Select Board, Board of Health, dedicated PFAS sessions for the community, and so forth. And over the past 5 years, the frequency of these public outreach activities has been once every 2 to 3 months on average. And also, we're maintaining a very robust PFAS website. The website has so much information, it really needs an overhaul, and Andrew's taking the lead on that. The town's website includes information on our PFAS contracts, related documents, work plans, sampling plans, testing plans, analysis reports, our fact sheets and infographics to summarize material, and reference material and links to external websites, among others. The conference, as Andrew said, great conference, not just for PFAS, but the other sessions I attended included maintenance management and asset management systems for capital planning and asset management analysis. This is another project that I'm working on with David and Mark for the drinking water, wastewater, and stormwater infrastructure owned and maintained by the town. This new computer system will go live in the summer. And one other conference takeaway I'd like to share is when talking about treatment technologies, there's really 3 parts under the umbrella of PFAS treatment: the concentrating PFAS, accumulating PFAS, and destroying PFAS. And concentrating PFAS is to separate and collect PFAS in the waste stream or the environment, and accumulating it in a media so that it's managed in smaller amounts and in a more concentrated form. That's followed by hopefully destroying PFAS with technologies that can break the carbon-fluorine bond. The destruction of PFAS will be more cost-effective for concentrated waste streams rather than dilute streams and larger volumes needing destruction. It's also possible that, for Nantucket, with the concentration, it's possible media could be sent off island for destruction, as opposed to having the technology on Nantucket. So that's something to keep in mind as well. A couple examples of treatment technologies that you probably heard about, discussed previously. Foam fractionation is the example of a concentrating and accumulating PFAS technology. Destruction technologies for PFAS may include incineration at very high temperatures, or the use of a hydrothermal process with very high temperature and pressures, such as supercritical water oxidation. Just a couple of, these are some of the treatment technologies that are being examined by the sewer department. And at this point, Greg, I'll turn it back to you, or David Gray, if he had any comments to make from his attendance.
Thank you for that, Chuck. So now you can see what the conference was like. I didn't understand half of what Chuck was saying, and that's pretty much what it was like for me. But before David gets up, one of the sessions I did go to was on workforce management, and it was called something to retention. But the bottom line is everyone's in the same boat with, like, in the wastewater business. They can't get staff, they can't retain them, and they can't train them. So we have that extra layer of difficulty, being out here. But it was, as a matter of fact, I've even having a session, I think, up in Portland, Maine, about just recruiting, because it's such an issue. So those are the type of sessions I went to. But David, if you have a couple of comments.
I do, yeah. There was a lot of sessions that we attended, and it was great to have so many reps from Nantucket there with us. I actually took in a lot of the sessions that had to do with biosolids, of course, is what we're doing with our sludge cake and everything. And one of the things that I think we're going to look at here in the near future is reduction of our biosolids. There was some processes that we looked at for drying technologies and different ways to handle it and mix it, where we could possibly reduce our amount of biosolids that we take to the landfill by almost 75%. So that was one of the big things that I took away, along with all the other PFAS sessions. I also spent a lot of time in the young professionals area, where all the college students, the young folks, were in there presenting posters and information on what they were doing, and talking to some of these young folks blew me away. And we're looking to trying to get some interns from some of the colleges, and this was a great way to try to meet some of these young folks and talk with the college professors. So it was a really, really good conference, and we did attend. A lot of us attended almost every conference together, and afterwards people were coming up, and a lot of people happen to know me because I've done presentations before. Didn't realize the extra layer of how complex it is for us if we have to gather it, collect it, and then try to transport it. They can get in the truck and they can drive somewhere where it was good to talk to a lot of different towns, and still a lot of towns aren't doing much, but it was really good.
Thank you, David. That's it, Madam Chair.
Questions?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have one. Anybody else?
Just one, was there any discussion of, it just seems crazy to me that, some of the industry is allowed to do this, and then it's up to us to clean it up. Was there any discussion on sort of that whole aspect? Like, the companies that have done this and have put this into the environment everywhere, and then sort of, are they responsible for any of this? Are
It
they
was.
assisting?
EPA had a table up there, and Mass DEP, and they're all as well trying to figure out what they're going to do. And we're talking, there could be some massive amounts of, PFAS concentrations and stuff. And there's numerous lawsuits going around. And I don't know if Greg said in any of those sessions that towns and cities can get involved in, but it's pretty complicated. Some people, some departments, or like the airport, they were mandated to test this certain type of foam, and now we have to solve the problem. It's like we don't manufacture the PFAS at the treatment plant. We receive it all, we test it, we know what we have now, and now it's a matter of working with Greg and the PFAS team on what are we going to do with it cost effectively. I mean, Mark's going to be dealing with some filtration pretty soon here at the wells. What do we do with the waste carbon? Those questions are all we talked about in depth up there.
I didn't get to go to that. There was a session that was specifically about kind of, for lack of a better term, lawsuits, and it was against another session, so I couldn't get to. I don't know if Chuck or Andrew was able to attend it, but it was definitely a tone of we're left to clean this up, and why can't we stop it from the source? But there's no other big discussions about that.
At times, it feels like, policy in some regards with a lot of these issues, and then we end up at the very back end of it having to deal with it. It doesn't seem like it's really pretty fair, but.
Again, say that people are watching Nantucket because, just walking through the trade show, they see your badge, it says Nantucket, and they know a lot about what we're doing, which was very surprising. And David's not giving himself credit, but he's a rock star there. Theybody knows David and loved him.
So my question kind of follows on what Matt said, maybe to Chuck. I realize there's some emerging technologies for destruction. Is there a business model there for, creating a facility where we can take our concentrated PFAS laden waste? Like, I realize, a lot of it is like, I know when we talk about waste management, there's a lot of technologies that are bench tested, but nobody's actually created a plant that's economically feasible to use those technologies. Are we getting closer?
I mean, I'm sure Chuck would probably want to jump in on that.
So closer, yes. And, David might have more to add too, because he's been following this longer than I have. But, in terms of destruction, currently we use a company like Clean Harbors when we have a quantity of contaminated waste with PFAS to send it to them for, certified destruction. And it's usually, an incineration process. But there's a lot of research and, a lot of research money that's being invested right now to find those destruction technologies that can work at scale. And, we'll probably see something, emerge in the next few years that'll actually be, ready to implement on a larger scale than what we're seeing now. But Greg or David, maybe you'd have something to add.
And what we're seeing and talking with a lot of communities and different groups is everyone has the same issue, and everyone's trying to find a place to take their biosolids. There's a couple of places in Rhode Island. I think one has just closed or had recently closed. Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire are seeking other terms and ways to try to solve their issues up there. It was real interesting talking to a lot of the people up in the upper New England states, what they're trying to do. Drying seems to be another option. Like I had said, it reduces the bulk by 75%, and then it becomes a Class A biosolid, where other states are using that is for a land application. Will Massachusetts get there? For a while, maybe not, but water reuse, like Greg was saying, and there's a lot of stuff coming. There are pilots out there. I talked to a few different vendors that I'm hoping to go down and see one of their, it's a scale, but they can't take large volumes yet, but they're willing to take a few hundred pounds or whatever of our biosolid to see what it would do in their machines. So that's something I'm going to be looking at. But like Greg, Andrew, and Chuck all said, that there was just so much. And this year was probably more PFAS discussions than I'd seen in the last 10 years I've been going. It was really good.
And Madam Chair, I just want to point out, like as David said, there are more PFAS sessions, and there are a lot. We kind of did branch out to try to get them all. But you and I and Tom attended the MMA conference 2 days before that, and there was not one PFAS session. So we're not all working together on the same solutions.
Yet. But the MMA did pass a resolution.
They did.
To encourage the state to deal with, the legislature to deal with PFAS.
They did, yeah.
So it's weaving its way through on the legislative and municipal governance side as well. So, okay, well, thank you. Really interesting. Welcome, Andrew. And, okay.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Chuck.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is a discussion regarding the follow-up for the Article 36 of 2024 Annual Town Meeting, the warrant article that authorized or requested that the Select Board pursue a review of the investigation of the hate crime at the African Meeting House. So we did attempt a procurement process that was unsatisfactory to the citizen warrant article proponents. And the Select Board did sort of step back, and I've been doing a lot of thinking and about what is a better way to go about that process for, the board is committed to having a review of the investigation done, and what is the best way to determine who will do that investigation, what firm will be hired, and have more clarity and transparency around the procurement process. And so, Erica, do you want to put up my email just so I have reference to it? So I spent a lot of time thinking about how that process happened. And from a procurement point of view, technically the process was the correct process, which is at the price point of the expected cost of the evaluation, that the process is that you define a scope of work and minimum qualifications, and then you identify firms to send out that request for interest in performing the work. And then somebody reviews those responses, the responding organizations or firms, and makes a recommendation to the select board to contract one of them. How that happened was less in the public space than I think we realize now that it should have been. So the idea that I came up with was the following: that we form an official work group of the select board that would be made up of a representative from the Citizen Warrant Article Group, a representative from the Museum of African American History as the victim of the crime, one select board member, and Dr. McNabb and I have spoken, and he's agreed to be the select board member. And then we would open up to public an application process to have two members of the community be part of this group. I did have the opportunity to talk with Dr. Noelle Trent, who is the director of the Museum of African American History, both the sites in Boston and Nantucket. And I did invite her tonight. She's online. And I'd love to have her input on the conversation we had and her thoughts about the museum's participation in this process and the ideas that we have, and just get her feedback. And then I've also spoken to Ms. Burgo and invited her to be here tonight to speak as well. So I'll start with you, Dr. Trent.
Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for having me. We appreciate the town's commitment on reviewing how the 2018 investigation was conducted as outlined in the Article 36 warrant. This matter has had a significant impact on both the museum and the broader community. And so we acknowledge that there is an importance for transparency in this process, and whatever steps need to be taken to provide that as we move forward is one that we fully endorse. Having been in my role for just over 18 months, I've been learning about this situation and its complexities, and a transparent review presents an opportunity to recognize any missteps and discuss how the town can establish stronger protocols for handling incidents like this in the future. And in an ideal world, we would not have incidents like this happen in this beloved community. The museum has the full support of its board of directors and is deeply grateful for the continued support of the community. And while I know many people would like a criminal conviction, we acknowledge and recognize that that might not be feasible at this juncture. However, we remain committed to pursuing other forms of justice that will help the museum and the community move forward. This process is a step toward accountability, fostering a stronger future, and deepening the relationship between the museum and the town. And we greatly appreciate the supporters who stand with us. It is important to clarify that in all matters concerning the museum, our official voice comes from authorized representatives. While we value the many perspectives of the community, there is a distinction between the museum's official position and individual opinions. As we move forward, we remain open to dialogue and encourage town officials to engage with us directly for any clarification regarding our stance on the process. And we are looking forward to beginning this process with everyone.
Thank you. Barbara, did you want to comment on the proposal for the process?
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Barbara Burgo, and I am hopefully now a friend of Nantucket, and I live in Brewster. My former hat in this area was former chair of the Barnstable County Human Rights Commission. So just as a Black woman, and thank you for taking this up on your first meeting for Black History Month. That is very important. And this is the first I've heard of this part of what you're recommending. I would have liked to have heard sooner or seen the letter or something. But with that being said, so far, this sounds much better. Thank you very much to all of you for your review on this process. The only questions, of course, then that would come up was I heard, of course, that you're looking to have a member of the community be part of it, as well as the members, a member of the African Museum folks. And so the question next would be, of course, who in the community would you be recommending, or do we get a chance to, does the community get a chance to recommend who that community person would be? And then going forward, I heard Dr., I'm sorry, I keep saying Trent, say that we would be hoping for some formal punitive damage here. I've been able to talk to today a dozen people in your community, and they said that they would be online if they couldn't be right here. And so far, I have said to them, on my behalf, the junior investigator hat that I have on, that we cannot even discuss punitive damages. We have no idea there was anything done wrong. Okay, so I want to be fair to the select board as well and to the town. There is so much speculation out there and so much talk, gossip about what had happened. What we are all hoping for in good faith is that we really do just get to the bottom of this, just get started, and just find out what really happened. If we could at least get to the point where we have the formal investigator or an investigative team, that's great. Someone said, well, are you interested in that, or is that what you're going after this for? No, I'm just going after this for human rights, for the general community, as a friend of Gail and Jim and Cliff. So the last piece is accountability. So certainly a person on the select board, but if it's accountability, the transparency that Dr. Trent talked about is of utmost importance. And I hope you've said it, and I'm hoping that you also know that we are going to look for this to be as above board and transparent as possible. We have a name of a person that said, I would love to be the investigator. We can't accept that because this process has to go forward the way it's supposed to. I wrote a few quotes, but I don't need a few because Gail's not here as well. But one of them that I just wanted everyone to be able to see is from W.E.B. Du Bois, not even Frederick Douglass this time, who I've memorized his quote, oppression makes a wise man mad, from What to the Slave is the 4th of July oration. So women as well, if this feels oppressive, this whole process, I will get mad. Many people are mad out there already. So let's not have this an oppressive process. W.E.B. Du Bois said, a system cannot fail those it was never meant to protect. And I know Dr. Trent would understand that. I'm hoping this system is meant to protect all of us from hopefully this never happening again, but just like she said, and you said, and we reiterate, hopefully, if we were to even have such a thing happen, this entire process would have been much easier. 6.5 years, or almost 7 years, is outrageous. And Jim was going to stand up and say something, and I suggested, if it goes the way we tend to think it's going to go, and this is what I hoped for, that we don't accept without his permission. I just wanted to take a little tiny moment of silence. Today is the day Jim's son died, 6 years ago. The one who called him in Cape Verde and told him about this. And it's a sad day for Jim, and he would have normally been on the peninsula at his son's grave. And so with respect to your citizens who have all trusted that you'd do the right thing eventually, even if it didn't happen so much in the beginning, can we all just say a little silent prayer or remembrance, if you will, for Jim's son who passed away today, 6 years ago?
I'm happy to ask for a moment of silence.
Thank you.
And Jim, let me offer our condolences for you. So in terms of transparency of this process, Jim, did you want to speak?
Did you want to say something?
My son would say, what's taking us so long to get here? Why? All the games that have been played, stories, rumors, when is enough enough? Christopher Barrows.
Remember his name, please. Christopher Barrows. He wanted to see the right thing happen in honor of all of your communities, all of the communities, Boston, entire Massachusetts and US. The Christopher Barrowses of the world, the Frederick Douglasses of the world, the MLK Juniors of the world. We would all like to see this come to fruition, whether we like the outcome or not. We just need an outcome. Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. No, so just to your question, I wasn't clear that this group would be an official appointed work group of the town, of the select board. That means it is subject to open meeting law. All meeting agendas will be posted, have minutes, and will be recorded, and all those recordings of the meetings will be done online. I presume because Dr. Trent's in Boston and these meetings will probably happen on Zoom, but they will be recorded and posted on the town's YouTube page. So this will be done 100% in open session, the entire process.
Super.
The same steps, just completely in public session. So that's the plan. And to answer your question about appointments, we're going to be discussing in just a minute. We will be following our appointment protocol. We'll have a window when people can apply, and then their applications will be evaluated in public session. So, and they'll be invited to speak about why they want to serve, and then the board will appoint. It's a board appointed
That is
work
quite
group.
satisfactory.
Okay, great. I'm glad to hear that. Don?
Can I just add,
Done.
I'm sure that we would welcome your opinion on the applicants.
Of course. Yep. And their applications are posted in our agendas and we're going to figure out the timeline on that. Normally, it's quite lengthy, but I'm going to ask the board to consider shortening the timeline in order to move this along in a more timely manner. But you can weigh in on that too, in terms of how long the window will be open for people to apply. So we'll be talking about that as our next step. So if you want to hang in while we do that.
Okay, I would, right.
Okay, all right, terrific. Okay, so,
Madam Chair, may I
Yes.
offer a point of clarification just with my remarks? And there was something that Barbara said that I just want to make sure it's clear from the museum's perspective. First, I do express the museum's condolences to Jim on the anniversary of the loss of his son. But additionally, I want to be clear that we acknowledge that many people seek criminal justice, looking at a criminal justice path, and we are not interested in a punitive path. We are interested in pursuing something that is transformative for the community. And so I just want to make that point of clarification so that everybody understands what the museum's interests are as we move forward.
yeah, and I think having different voices represented in this work group will help make sure that those different perspectives are represented in the process. In setting the scope and the qualifications and so forth. So if the board is comfortable, it sounds like the group is comfortable with the process as outlined. Does the board have any questions or comments about that? And then the last piece would be to talk about what is the timeline for accepting applications for the committee seats. And Erica had a proposed timeline based on our normal procedure, which would allow us to foreshorten it if we so choose. So first, any thoughts on the process as laid out, concerns, questions from the board?
And I just wanted to remind you too, you do not have a meeting on the 28th. So you'll have a week in there.
Yep, okay. So,
Yeah, I think that the group that's proposed could be a balanced, good group. It's not dominated by, there's a select board member, but the rest are, people that, stakeholders or people that were involved. I think that that's kind of what was missing a little bit in the first go round. And I think that this is, I think you've done a good job, Brooke, in capturing, a better way to do this.
Madam Chair?
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with Matt. I think this is a balanced group. And everything will be posted, like you said, and recorded, and everything will be done in open session, and the group will be subject to open meeting law. So that is the definition of transparency that we can, having a select board member on the group, provide for those who are interested in seeing this process through.
Yes, I support everything that was just said, but in terms of making it a shorter timeline, I don't really see a way to
There may or
do
may
that
not
by
be.
maybe like one week, like maybe on the 12th, we could read their names and review them and do the appointment, but I get leery about breaking any kind of policy protocol because we got so much flack for not having this so completely clear and
I just wanted to balance the moving it along with our timeline, and that's why I left it for the board to discuss. So, Barbara, did you want to add something on that?
No, this, not something so much to the timeline, thank you. You are right with me, Chairwoman Holgate. We were hoping for something quicker, but I also know that you want to give the folks an opportunity to apply and to review. So getting into March, we know then all of a sudden you're going to get into preparing for summer visitors here, and it's going to get very difficult for anyone to keep up with what you're trying to do and stay in good fashion. The other thing is, I know that the museum folks have to do the museum protocol, but I'm hoping, it's sad to say that I heard most of today. I'm afraid to get involved or to show my face there because there's always retribution. There's always punishment for somebody trying to speak up to the select board. And, I take everything at face value. I'm an anthropologist as well. There's not always, but sadly, I didn't see 5 of the people that said they were going to be there here. So I'm hoping that you take into consideration a couple of things, not just the timing, but the people that apply maybe don't directly work for the town manager or the select board or whatever, because there is a fear that they're going to have a negative impact for trying to do the right thing. And when I say, no, they can't do that, you can't retaliate, they say, you don't live here on Nantucket, it's a different space. So then I say, there's a sunshine law. I do know of that. So if we ask for records or the investigator asks for records, they have to be provided. Then they say there's a lot of backdoor talk. And I said, I know of the laws against talking amongst yourselves, because I worked with this in Taunton, and I did have to go to the Attorney General's office about open meeting law violation. And I won against the city of Taunton. So we know what open meeting law violation is. I just want your folks who said they were going to be listening in today to know that when we say here that this is going to be an open and fair and just transparent process that they're all watching, and it has to be, because I've given my word, and I'm hoping you're giving your word, and it goes as far as we need to go, even if we find out some ugly truths. Then, like Dr. Trent said, it's going to be a teachable moment rather than something that we try to brush under the rug.
Absolutely, agree. And I will acknowledge that the process was not good the first time around, and one of us learned from our mistakes. So that's why I took time to think about it and come up with something that would be the most open and transparent process that I can come up with that complies with procurement law. So here we are.
That's all we can ask for. Thank you.
Okay. And recordings really help, because everything everybody says in the meeting is right out there. It's not subject to interpretation. Everybody can listen to it themselves, and that's why that's an important element of this. So, I'm hearing from the board, and we're okay with the balance of the timeline being as it is. So I guess we would endorse the process and the timeline, and then Erica would follow by putting an ad for applications, right?
Yep, so, sorry, that should have said February 6th on the second bullet. So now that you're in agreement on the membership, what I'll do is put something on the town website with the 2 citizen openings for the group. We will get it in the newspaper for the next couple weeks. We'll have it on your next couple of agendas. I can work with our communications office to do a little news blast on it so that people can, fully understand this and what the process is. And then on February 28th by noon, I can share the applications with the select board and Ms. Burgo and Ms. Trent, and we'll go from there.
Do you need a motion or no?
Yeah, I think we should.
To establish
I
the
think we
group.
should establish the group under the procedures that we've
Right, and
discussed tonight.
I'll make a motion for that and the timeline as presented, except the 5th is actually the 6th.
Second.
Okay.
It is?
No, you said you were going to change.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, to advertise, because you can't do that retroactively today.
You can't go backwards?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't. I don't know whether you can, Erica. Okay, so, Dawn.
I did.
So all those in favor, Barbara, did you want to comment before we vote?
I'm all set.
Okay, all right, terrific. By roll call, Matt?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. And thank you, Malcolm, for volunteering to lead. And Malcolm's role there also is procedural, just familiar with open meeting law and running meetings and so forth. So I think that will help a group that's made up of citizens who are not doing this process on a regular basis. So thanks to everybody. Appreciate your input tonight. Thank you, Dr. Trent.
Appreciate your hard work.
Yep. Any final comments, Dr. Trent, before we move on?
No, thank you so much. We're looking forward to this process moving forward.
Okay, terrific. Thank you so much. Okay, any committee reports? All quiet. All right.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, by roll call, Matt?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay, thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.